Dr. Amanda Price walked slowly down the hallway of her veterinary clinic, her heart already feeling heavy before she even entered the room where Jake Morrison waited with his dog Rex. She had been a veterinarian for 15 years, but saying goodbye to a beloved pet never got easier. Through the small window in the door, she could see Jake sitting on the metal examination table, his arms wrapped around the large German shepherd who had been his constant companion for 12 years. Rex was dying, and everyone knew it. The cancer had spread through his body like wildfire, and despite all the treatments they had tried, nothing could stop it. The once strong dog who used to run for miles with Jake in the mountains now struggled to walk across the room. His breathing was heavy and painful, and his eyes, which used to shine with intelligence and joy, were now clouded with suffering. Amanda took a deep breath and opened the door. The smell of antiseptic mixed with the familiar scent of dog filled her nose. Jake looked up at her with tears already running down his face. He was a man in his 40s with rough hands that spoke of years of hard work. But now those hands shook as they gently stroked Rex's fur. "Good morning." "Jake," Amanda said softly, setting her medical bag on the counter. "How is he doing today?" Jake tried to speak, but his voice caught in his throat. He cleared it and tried again. "He had a bad night, Doc. He couldn't sleep, and I could tell he was in a lot of pain. When I got up this morning, he could barely lift his head to look at me." Amanda nodded and approached the table slowly. Rex had always been a gentle dog, but animals in pain could sometimes become unpredictable. As she got closer, Rex lifted his head slightly and looked at her. Even through the pain, she could see a spark of recognition in his eyes. He had always been an unusually intelligent dog, almost as if he understood everything that was happening around him. "I know this is the hardest decision you've ever had to make," Amanda said, placing her hand gently on Jake's shoulder. "But Rex is suffering, and we've tried everything we can. The kindest thing we can do now is to let him go peacefully." Jake nodded, but his grip on Rex only tightened. "I know, Doc, I know you're right. It's just that he's been with me through everything. When I came back from overseas, when I had all those nightmares and couldn't sleep, Rex was always there. He seemed to know exactly when I needed him most." Amanda had heard Jake's story before. He had served 3 tours in Afghanistan and had come home with wounds that couldn't be seen. The doctors called it PTSD, but Jake just called it hell. He had found Rex as a puppy during one of his darkest times, and the dog had somehow helped him find his way back to living. "He's been a good friend to you," Amanda said, opening her medical bag and taking out the supplies she would need. "And you've been a wonderful owner to him. Look how long you've had together. 12 years is a good life for a big dog like Rex." She prepared the injection that would end Rex's suffering. It was a peaceful way to go, she had explained to Jake many times. Rex would simply fall asleep and not wake up. There would be no more pain, no more struggle to breathe, no more confusion about why his body was failing him. But as Amanda approached with the needle, something strange happened. Rex, who had been lying quietly in Jake's arms, suddenly lifted his head and looked directly at her. It wasn't the usual look of a sick animal who was afraid of the vet. This was different. There was something in those eyes that made Amanda pause. The look was so intense, so aware, that for a moment Amanda felt like Rex was trying to tell her something important. She had seen thousands of animals in her career, but she had never seen a look quite like this one. It was almost as if Rex knew exactly what was about to happen and was trying to communicate something urgent. "Jake," Amanda said slowly, not taking her eyes off Rex. "Has Rex been acting differently lately? I mean, besides the illness." Jake looked puzzled by the question. "Well, now that you mention it, yes. He's been doing some strange things. For the past few weeks, he's been staring at the sky a lot, like he's watching for something. And at night, sometimes I hear him making sounds I've never heard before. Not barking or whining, but something else entirely." Amanda set down the syringe and moved closer to Rex. The dog continued to watch her with that same intense gaze. As she looked more carefully, she noticed that his eyes weren't as clouded as they had appeared from across the room. In fact, they seemed clearer than they had been in weeks. "That's odd," she murmured, reaching out to gently touch Rex's head. The moment her fingers made contact with his fur, she felt something she couldn't explain. It was like a small electric shock, but not painful. More like energy flowing between them. Rex made a soft sound, not quite a whine and not quite a growl. It was unlike anything Amanda had heard from a dog before. The sound seemed to have pattern to it, almost like he was trying to say words. "Jake, I need to examine Rex more closely before we proceed." Amanda said, her scientific curiosity overriding her original plan. Something doesn't seem right here. She turned on the overhead examination light and began to look at Rex more carefully. What she saw made her heart skip a beat. Beneath Rex's thick fur along his spine were small marks that she had never noticed before. They were barely visible, but under the bright light she could see them clearly. The marks looked almost like tiny circuits or pathways running under his skin. As she watched, they seemed to pulse with a very faint blue light. Amanda rubbed her eyes, thinking she must be seeing things, but when she looked again, the marks were still there. "This is impossible," she whispered to herself. In all her years of veterinary practice, she had never seen anything like this. She reached for her stethoscope to listen to Rex's heart, but what she heard made her even more confused. Rex's heartbeat was strong and steady, not at all like the weak, irregular rhythm she had been monitoring for weeks. His breathing, too, seemed easier than it had been when she first entered the room. Amanda looked at Jake, who was watching her with growing concern. "Jake, I need to ask you something, and I want you to think very carefully about your answer. Where exactly did you find Rex when he was a puppy?" Jake's forehead wrinkled as he tried to remember. "It was about 12 years ago, right after I got back from my last deployment. I was having a really hard time adjusting to being home, so I started taking long hikes in the mountains outside Colorado Springs. I was trying to clear my head, you know. One day I was hiking in a really remote area when I heard this crying sound." He paused, stroking Rex's head as he continued. "I followed the sound and found this tiny puppy, all alone and scared. He was near what looked like some kind of crash site. There was strange metallic debris scattered around, pieces of metal that didn't look like anything I'd ever seen. They had this weird blue shine to them." Amanda felt a chill run down her spine. "What happened to the debris?" "Well, I was so focused on helping the puppy that I didn't really think about it at the time. I took Rex home and got him healthy, and then a few days later I went back to report the crash site to the authorities. But when we got there, everything was gone. The Forest Service said they hadn't cleaned anything up, and there was no record of any aircraft going down in that area." Rex made that strange sound again, and this time Amanda was certain it had a pattern to it. It was almost like he was trying to speak, but in a language she didn't understand. Something extraordinary was happening here, and Amanda knew that giving Rex the injection now would be a terrible mistake. Whatever was going on with this dog, it was far more complex than a simple case of terminal cancer. Amanda stared at the strange markings on Rex's spine, her mind racing to find some logical explanation for what she was seeing. The blue light pulsing beneath his fur was definitely not normal, and the more she observed it, the more convinced she became that this was not any kind of disease she had ever encountered. "Jake, I need you to stay calm, but I don't think Rex is dying," Amanda said, her voice barely above a whisper. "In fact, I think something else entirely is happening to him." Jake looked at her with confusion and hope mixed together in his eyes. "What do you mean?" "The cancer, the test results, everything pointed to him being terminal." Amanda moved to her equipment cabinet and pulled out her most advanced scanning device. It was a piece of technology that could analyze cellular structure and brain activity in real time. She had only used it a few times before, mainly for research purposes, but something told her that Rex was going to need every advanced tool she had available. "I'm going to run some tests that I should have done weeks ago," she said, powering up the scanner. "The equipment I used before might not have been sensitive enough to detect whatever is actually happening to Rex." As the scanner warmed up, Amanda watched Rex carefully. The dog seemed more alert than he had been in months. His breathing was definitely easier, and when he looked at her, there was a clarity in his gaze that reminded her of the young, healthy Rex that Jake used to bring in for routine checkups. The scanner beeped, indicating it was ready to use. Amanda placed the sensor array over Rex's body and began the scan. Immediately, the readings showed something that made her gasp out loud. Rex's cellular structure was unlike anything in her veterinary textbooks. His cells weren't dying from cancer at all. Instead, they appeared to be transforming into something completely different. The scanner showed energy patterns that were far more complex than anything found in normal Earth animals. "This can't be right," Amanda muttered, checking the machine's calibration, but the readings remained consistent. Rex's brain activity was off the charts, showing patterns that were more sophisticated than those found in dolphins, which were considered among the most intelligent animals on the planet. Jake watched anxiously as Amanda worked. "Doc, what's going on? Is Rex going to be okay?" Before Amanda could answer, Rex suddenly sat up straighter than he had been able to do in weeks. The movement was smooth and controlled, showing none of the weakness that had plagued him recently. He turned his head toward Jake and made that unusual sound again, but this time it was longer and more complex. Amanda grabbed a recording device and held it near Rex. Whatever language he was trying to use, she wanted to capture it for analysis. As Rex continued to make the strange sounds, Amanda noticed that the blue markings on his spine grew brighter. "Jake, I need to call someone," Amanda said, reaching for her phone. "I have a colleague who specializes in unusual biological phenomena. This is way beyond my expertise." She dialed the number for Dr. Ben Crawford, a scientist she had met at a veterinary conference several years earlier. Ben worked for some kind of government research program that dealt with unexplained biological cases. At the time, Amanda had thought his work sounded like science fiction, but now she was grateful to know someone who might have answers. "Ben, it's Amanda Price. I need your help with something that you're not going to believe," she said when he answered. "I have a dog here that's displaying biological anomalies unlike anything I've ever seen." She quickly described Rex's condition and the strange markings she had discovered. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone before Ben spoke. "Amanda, don't let that dog leave your clinic. I'm on my way and I'm bringing some specialized equipment. What you're describing matches reports we've been tracking for months." "Reports? You mean this has happened before?" "More often than you might think, but the animals usually disappear before we can study them properly. Whatever you do, don't let Rex out of your sight." After hanging up, Amanda turned back to Jake and Rex. The dog was now standing on the examination table, his movement fluid and purposeful. The transformation was remarkable. An hour ago, Rex had barely been able to lift his head, and now he was moving like a healthy young animal. "Doc, I don't understand what's happening, but Rex looks better than he has in months," Jake said, wonder in his voice. "Look at his eyes. They're so clear and alert." Amanda nodded, continuing to monitor the scanner readings. Rex's vital signs were not just normal, they were exceptional. His heart rate was steady and strong, his brain activity was increasing by the minute, and the mysterious energy signatures were becoming more pronounced. Rex jumped down from the examination table with ease and walked over to the window. He stood on his hind legs and placed his front paws on the windowsill, staring intently at the sky. His behavior was focused and purposeful, as if he was watching for something specific. "He's been doing that at home too," Jake said. "It's like he's expecting something to happen." Amanda joined Rex at the window and followed his gaze upward. The sky was clear and blue, with only a few white clouds visible. But Rex continued to stare upward with intense concentration, occasionally making those strange vocalizations. About 30 minutes later, a black SUV pulled into the clinic's parking lot. Amanda watched as Dr. Ben Crawford got out, followed by two people in military uniforms. They unloaded several cases of equipment from the vehicle and headed toward the clinic entrance. Ben entered the examination room and immediately focused on Rex. The dog turned to look at the newcomers, and Amanda could swear she saw recognition in Rex's eyes, as if he had been expecting them. "Incredible," Ben whispered, pulling out a handheld device that looked unlike anything Amanda had ever seen. "The energy readings are even stronger than the reports indicated." He approached Rex slowly, holding the device in front of him. Rex remained calm, almost cooperative, as Ben took readings. The device emitted a series of beeps and clicks that seemed to get Rex's attention. "Dr. Crawford, what exactly is going on here?" Jake demanded. "Everyone keeps talking about reports and readings, but nobody is explaining what's wrong with my dog." Ben looked at Jake seriously. "Mr. Morrison, I need you to understand that what I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but Rex isn't just any dog. The markings on his spine, the energy patterns we're detecting, the behavioral changes, they all point to something extraordinary." Rex walked over to Ben and sat down directly in front of him. The dog looked up at the scientist with what could only be described as intelligence and purpose. Then Rex opened his mouth and made a series of sounds that were clearly not random barking or whining. Ben's eyes widened as he listened. He quickly adjusted his device and pointed it toward Rex as the dog continued to vocalize. The device began translating the sounds into patterns that appeared on its small screen. "He's trying to communicate," Ben said in amazement. "The patterns are too complex to be random. Rex is attempting to use language. Amanda felt her world shifting as she watched her patient transform before her eyes. Rex wasn't dying at all. Instead, he was becoming something more than what he had been. The cancer diagnosis had been wrong, or at least incomplete. Something else was happening to Rex, something that science was only beginning to understand. Jake knelt down beside Rex and gently placed his hand on the dog's head. Rex leaned into the touch, the same gesture of affection he had shown thousands of times before. But now there was something different about it, as if Rex was trying to convey a deeper message through that simple contact. "Whatever you are, Rex, you're still my friend," Jake said softly. "We'll figure this out together." Rex made a soft sound that almost sounded like he was trying to say yes. The blue markings on his spine pulsed brighter for a moment, and Amanda realized that their quiet morning at the veterinary clinic had just become the beginning of something that would change everything they thought they knew about the world. Ben Crawford worked quickly to set up his equipment around Rex, his hands moving with practiced efficiency, despite the obvious excitement he was trying to contain. Amanda watched as strange devices she had never seen before were positioned around the examination room, each one humming softly as it powered up. "Jake, I need to ask you some very specific questions about Rex's behavior over the past few months," Ben said, adjusting a device that looked like a cross between a microscope and a radar dish. "Has he shown any interest in technology? Electronics, computers, anything like that?" Jake thought for a moment, his hand still resting on Rex's head. "Actually, yes. He's been fascinated by my television lately, especially when the news is on. And he seems drawn to my cell phone. Sometimes I catch him staring at it when it's charging, like he's studying it." Ben nodded as if this confirmed something he had suspected. "What about his sleep patterns?"
Has he been sleeping normally?
"Not at all," Jake replied. "He used to sleep through the night, but for the past month or so, he's been getting up at exactly 3 in the morning and going to the window. He'll stand there for hours just watching the sky." Amanda noticed that Rex was paying close attention to their conversation, his head turning from person to person as they spoke. It was as if he understood every word they were saying. Ben's primary scanning device began to emit a series of complex tones, and Rex's ears perked up immediately. The dog stood and walked directly to the device, sitting down in front of it with perfect posture. The blue markings on his spine began to pulse in rhythm with the tones. "Fascinating," Ben murmured, watching his readings. "Rex is responding to frequencies that are completely outside the normal range of dog hearing. He's detecting and reacting to signals that shouldn't be audible to any Earth-based life form." Amanda moved closer to look at Ben's equipment. The displays showed wave patterns and energy signatures that meant nothing to her, but Ben's expression told her they were significant. "Dr. Crawford, please explain what you think is happening to Rex," Amanda said. "As his veterinarian, I need to understand what we're dealing with." Ben stopped his work and looked directly at her. "Amanda, what I'm about to tell you is classified information, but given what we're witnessing here, you need to know the truth. Over the past 2 years, we've documented similar cases in 17 different countries. Dogs, cats, and other domestic animals displaying the same kinds of markings, the same energy signatures, the same behavioral changes." He gestured toward Rex, who was still sitting calmly beside the scanning device. "We believe these animals are not entirely what they appear to be. The evidence suggests they may be some form of advanced reconnaissance, possibly of extraterrestrial origin." Jake's face went pale. "Are you saying Rex is some kind of alien spy?" "Not exactly," Ben said carefully. "We think Rex and animals like him are scouts, but their mission appears to be observational, rather than hostile. They've been studying human behavior and society by living among us as our companions." Rex suddenly stood and walked over to Jake, pressing his body against his human's legs in the same comforting gesture he had used countless times over the years. Jake automatically reached down to pet him, and as he did, Rex made a series of soft sounds that almost sounded like words. Ben quickly aimed his translation device toward Rex and activated it. The screen filled with patterns and symbols as Rex continued to vocalize. After several minutes, words began to appear on the display. "Friend real," the device translated. "Love human Jake, protect always." Jake stared at the screen in shock. "He's actually talking to me." Rex looked up at Jake and made more sounds. The translation appeared almost immediately. "Jake helped Rex when small. Rex helped Jake when sad. Bond strong." Tears filled Jake's eyes as he realized that Rex was referring to their first meeting 12 years ago, and to all the times Rex had comforted him during his struggles with PTSD. You remember all of that? Remember everything, came the translated response.
Jake, good human?
Rex learned much from Jake. Amanda felt her understanding of the world shifting fundamentally. The dog she had been about to put down was actually an intelligent being from somewhere else, one who had formed a genuine emotional bond with his human companion. Ben continued to work with his equipment, and more information began to emerge. Rex was not alone. He was part of a network of scouts positioned around the globe, all of them gathering information about human society and behavior. But what they had discovered was not what their original mission had intended. The translation is becoming clearer, Ben announced. Rex is explaining that his species sent scouts to Earth to study humanity before making contact. They wanted to understand human nature and determine whether humans would be receptive to peaceful interaction. Rex made a longer series of vocalizations, and the translation device worked to interpret his meaning. Humans different than expected appeared on the screen. Humans share food with animals. Humans care for sick animals. Humans love creatures not their own kind. Amanda realized that Rex was describing the very relationship he had with Jake, and that humans had with their pets in general. He's talking about how we care for our animals, isn't he? Yes, Ben said, excitement growing in his voice. And there's more. Rex is saying that this behavior surprised his people. Most species they've encountered don't form emotional bonds with other life forms. The fact that humans regularly adopt and care for animals from different species suggests something unique about human nature. Jake knelt down beside Rex, looking into the dog's intelligent eyes. So all this time you were studying me while I thought I was just caring for my pet? Rex's response came quickly. Study became love. Mission became family. Rex chose Jake over own kind. The implications of Rex's words hit everyone in the room. This wasn't just a matter of alien observation. Rex had made an emotional choice to prioritize his relationship with Jake over his original mission. Ben's equipment began picking up new signals, and he looked concerned as he checked his readings. Amanda, I'm detecting incoming transmissions. Multiple sources, all similar to Rex's energy signature. Rex suddenly became alert, his head turning toward the window again. He made a series of urgent sounds that the translation device interpreted as others awakening. Time short. Must prepare. Prepare for what? Jake asked. Rex looked directly at him with an intensity that was almost human. Danger comes from far stars. Dark ones follow scout ships. They hunt worlds with life. Rex people try to warn Earth people. Amanda felt a chill run down her spine. You're saying there's some kind of threat coming to Earth? The translation device showed Rex's response. Yes, enemy destroys planets. Consumes all life. Rex people want to help humans fight, but need trust between species. Ben was frantically working with his communication equipment, trying to contact his superiors. If what Rex is saying is true, we're looking at first contact with an alien species that wants to help us defend against a hostile force. Rex walked to the center of the room and sat down, his blue markings now glowing brightly enough to be visible even in the normal room lighting. He began to make complex vocalizations that lasted for several minutes. When he finished, the translation device displayed a message that changed everything. Rex call to others now. All scouts on Earth will reveal themselves. Time for hiding is over. Humans must know truth before enemy arrives. Jake helped Rex learn that humans can be trusted. Now Rex helped humans prepare for war. Outside the clinic, car alarms began going off throughout the neighborhood. Amanda looked out the window and saw people standing in their yards, all of them staring up at the sky where strange lights were beginning to appear. The transformation that had begun with one dying dog in a small veterinary clinic was now spreading across the entire planet. Rex's call had been answered, and nothing would ever be the same again. The strange lights in the sky grew brighter as reports began flooding in from around the world. Ben's radio crackled with urgent messages from his colleagues in different countries, all describing the same phenomenon. Pets everywhere were beginning to show the same blue markings and attempting to communicate with their human families. Amanda watched through her clinic window as her neighbors gathered in the street, many of them holding their own pets who were displaying the same glowing patterns that Rex had shown. Dogs, cats, and even some birds were making the same complex vocalizations that Rex had used to communicate. Jake, we need to stay close to Rex, Ben said, adjusting his equipment to handle multiple incoming signals. He seems to be some kind of coordinator for this awakening process. The other scouts appear to be responding to his call. Rex stood near the window, his entire body now radiating a soft blue light. He was making steady, rhythmic sounds that the translation device interpreted as coordinates and status reports. It became clear that he was in communication with scouts all over the planet. Jake stayed beside Rex, his hand resting on the dog's back. Despite everything that was happening, despite learning that his beloved pet was actually an alien scout, Jake's primary concern was still Rex's well-being. "Doc, is all this activity going to hurt him? He's been sick for so long." Amanda checked her scanner readings and was amazed by what she found. "Jake, Rex isn't sick anymore. His vital signs are better than perfect. Whatever transformation he's going through, it's actually making him healthier and stronger." Through the translation device, Rex's voice came through clearly. Body changing to true form. Sickness was change beginning. Rex becoming what Rex really is. Ben's equipment picked up a new signal much stronger than the others. "Rex, are you receiving communication from your home world?" "Yes," came the translated response. "Homeworld speaks to all scouts. Enemy ships detected at edge of solar system. Time to prepare is short." The weight of Rex's words settled over everyone in the room. An actual alien invasion was approaching Earth, and humanity had no idea it was coming. The only warning they had was coming from their own pets. Amanda's cell phone began ringing, and she saw that it was her colleague, Dr. Lisa Park, who ran a veterinary clinic across town. She answered quickly. "Amanda, something incredible is happening here." Lisa's voice was filled with excitement and fear. "All the animals in my clinic are glowing with blue lights and making sounds I've never heard before. My translation app is picking up words, actual words. They're trying to tell me something about danger from space. Lisa, the same thing is happening here. You need to contact every veterinarian in the city. We need to coordinate this somehow." As Amanda spoke on the phone, Rex approached Ben's communication equipment and began interacting with it directly. The dog placed his paw on the keyboard, and somehow the device responded to his touch, bringing up displays that Ben himself didn't recognize. "Rex, what are you doing?" Ben asked. The translation device showed Rex's response. "Connecting Earth communication to Scout Network. Must speak to all humans quickly." Within minutes, Rex had somehow linked Ben's equipment to television and radio networks around the world. Suddenly, every screen and speaker on the planet was carrying the same message in dozens of languages. "People of Earth," came a voice that was clearly not human, but spoke with warmth and urgency. "We are the Watchers, and we have lived among you for many years as your faithful companions. The animals you call pets have been our eyes and ears, but also our teachers." Jake listened in amazement as the voice continued. "We came to study your species, but we discovered something unexpected. Humans possess a rare gift, the ability to form emotional bonds with creatures different from themselves. This capacity for love across species boundaries is something we had never encountered before." Rex moved away from the equipment and returned to Jake's side, pressing against him in the familiar gesture of comfort and affection. Through the translation device, his personal message came through. Jake taught Rex what love means. Jake showed Rex that trust and loyalty can exist between different kinds of beings. The global broadcast continued. "Our scouts have reported that an ancient enemy approaches your world. The Devourers consume all life on planets they encounter, leaving nothing behind. They have destroyed countless civilizations across the galaxy." Amanda felt her knees go weak as the implications became clear. Earth was facing an extinction-level threat, and their only allies were the pets that had been living among them all along. "But we have learned from you," the voice went on. "Your ability to unite different species in bonds of trust and love gives us hope. Together we believe we can defeat an enemy that has never faced united resistance from multiple species working as one." Ben was frantically taking notes and trying to establish communication protocols. "Rex, how much time do we have before these Devourers arrive?" Rex's response was sobering. 6 months of Earth time. Enemy moves slowly but destroys completely. Must use time to prepare." Jake looked down at Rex, seeing his friend in an entirely new light but feeling the same love and loyalty he had always felt. "Rex, what do you need from us? How can we help? Humans must trust scouts. Scouts must share technology with humans. Together we become stronger than either species alone." Amanda watched as Rex approached her medical scanner and somehow interfaced with it directly. The device began displaying information that was far beyond its normal capabilities, showing detailed analyses of the bond between Rex and Jake at a molecular level. The connection between human and scout creates new possibilities. Rex explained through the translator. Trust makes both species stronger. Jake's care for Rex when sick created bond that allows sharing of abilities. Ben studied the readings with growing excitement. Amanda, look at this. The emotional bond between Jake and Rex has actually created a biological link between them. Jake's brain patterns are synchronizing with Rex's enhanced capabilities. Jake suddenly felt different, as if his senses had become sharper and his thinking clearer. I can feel it, he said in wonder. It's like Rex and I are connected in a way we never were before. Rex's response came through clearly. Bond allows human to use Scout technology. Scout gains human creativity and courage. Together we are more than sum of parts. Around the world, similar connections were forming between pets and their human families. The global network of Scouts was sharing their technology and abilities with the humans who had cared for them, creating hybrid partnerships that were stronger than either species could be alone. Amanda realized that her clinic had become ground zero for the most important event in human history. The dying dog she had been prepared to put down that morning had instead revealed himself to be humanity's first alien ally, and the bond he shared with Jake was becoming the template for a new kind of interspecies cooperation. Rex, what happens next? She asked. The translation showed his response. Now we teach humans to fight like family. Scouts know enemy weapons and tactics. Humans know courage and sacrifice for those they love. Together, we prepare for war. Outside, the strange lights in the sky were organizing into patterns, and Amanda knew that the quiet little town where she had practiced veterinary medicine for 15 years was about to become part of something much larger than anyone had ever imagined. 3 weeks after Rex's revelation, the world had changed in ways that seemed impossible. Amanda's veterinary clinic had been transformed into a coordination center where humans and their Scout companions worked together to understand the technology that would be needed to defend Earth. Jake had become one of the primary test subjects for the human-Scout bonding process. His connection with Rex had grown stronger each day, allowing him to interface with alien technology in ways that amazed even the Scout species. When Jake placed his hands on one of their communication devices, he could instantly understand how it worked and even improve its efficiency. The bond between you and Rex is remarkable, Dr. Susan Cole said, as she monitored Jake's brain activity during one of their sessions. Susan was a neuroscientist who had been brought in to study the connection between humans and Scouts. Your neural patterns are synchronizing with Rex's at a level we didn't think was possible. Rex sat beside Jake during the testing, his blue markings pulsing in rhythm with Jake's heartbeat. Through the translation device, Rex's voice had become as familiar as any human friend's. Jake's mind thinks in ways Rex people cannot. Jake sees solutions that Scouts miss. The partnership between humans and Scouts was revealing strengths that neither species possessed alone. The Scouts had advanced technology and knowledge of the approaching enemy, but they lacked the creative problem-solving abilities that seemed to come naturally to humans. Meanwhile, humans had courage and emotional resilience that allowed them to function under pressure in ways the Scouts found remarkable. Amanda had been working with a cat named Luna and her human companion, Sarah Kim, who lived in nearby Denver. Luna had been one of the first Scouts to respond to Rex's call, and her bond with Sarah had produced different but equally impressive results. Sarah seemed to have developed an early warning system that could detect approaching spacecraft at enormous distances. It's like I can feel them coming, Sarah explained during one of their video conferences. Luna and I are connected to some kind of detection network that spans the entire solar system. I know it sounds crazy, but I can sense hostile intentions from thousands of miles away. Ben Crawford had established communication with Scout networks on every continent, and the picture that emerged was both encouraging and terrifying. The Scouts had been preparing for this moment for decades, but they had never expected to find allies like humans. Your species is unique in the galaxy, explained Keeper, the Scout commander who spoke for their species. Most intelligent races view other life forms as either resources to be used or threats to be eliminated. Humans alone have developed the capacity to form genuine emotional bonds with creatures completely different from themselves. Rex had become the primary translator between the species, and his relationship with Jake served as the model for similar partnerships around the world. Humans love without expecting return, Rex explained to a gathering of world leaders who had come to witness the bonding process. Humans give food to creatures who cannot repay. Humans risk safety to help injured animals. This behavior is unknown among other species. The scout technology was unlike anything humans had ever encountered. Instead of being controlled by buttons or computers, it responded to emotional resonance and intent. A human scout pair working together could operate weapon systems, communication networks, and defensive shields simply by thinking and feeling in harmony. Jake demonstrated this during a training session with military officials. He and Rex approached a piece of scout technology that looked like a metallic flower. As Jake placed his hands on its surface and Rex touched it with his paw, the device activated and created a protective energy barrier around them. The shield responds to our combined will to protect, Jake explained to the amazed observers. Rex provides the technical knowledge and I provide the emotional drive. Together we can create defenses that neither of us could manage alone. Colonel Patricia Hughes, who was coordinating the military response to the approaching threat, was skeptical at first, but became convinced after seeing the demonstrations. I've been a soldier for 20 years and I've never seen anything like this. The bond between these pairs is creating capabilities that our best technology can't match. The global network of human scout pairs was growing rapidly. In Tokyo, an elderly man named Hiroshi and his parrot Echo had developed a communication system that could coordinate responses across continents in real time. In London, a teenager named Alex and his dog Buddy had figured out how to enhance human physical abilities using scout biotechnology. But the most remarkable development was happening with children. Young humans seemed to form even stronger bonds with their scout companions than adults did. 8-year-old Emma Rodriguez and her cat Whiskers had achieved a level of synchronization that allowed them to share memories and experiences directly. Children's minds are more flexible, explained Dr. Cole during one of her research presentations. They accept the reality of the bond without the skepticism that adults often have. This allows for deeper integration between human and scout consciousness. Rex had been working with other scouts to develop training programs for the human scout pairs. Humans must learn to trust scout knowledge, and he explained. Scouts must learn to trust human instincts. When both species trust completely, new abilities emerge. The training involved exercises that seemed simple but required perfect coordination between human and scout. Jake and Rex would practice moving objects with their combined mental focus, communicating without words and sharing sensory experiences. Each success strengthened their bond and unlocked new capabilities. Amanda found herself serving as a medical coordinator for the bonding process. Some humans experienced difficulty adapting to the neural connection with their scout partners, and she had developed protocols to help them adjust. The bond changes both species, she explained to other veterinarians who were participating in the program. We need to monitor both human and scout health to ensure the connection remains stable. The approaching enemy, known as the Devourers, presented a threat unlike anything humanity had ever faced. According to the scouts, the Devourers had destroyed hundreds of worlds, consuming all life and leaving behind barren planets. They had never encountered resistance from species working together. Devourers expect division and fear, Rex explained during a strategy session. They use terror to weaken prey before attacking. But human scout bonds create something new. Love makes both species brave in ways Devourers cannot understand. Jake had volunteered to be part of the first wave of defense when the Devourers arrived. His bond with Rex had made him capable of piloting scout spacecraft and operating weapons systems that would have been impossible for humans to use alone. Are you scared? Amanda asked him during one of their sessions. Jake looked at Rex, who was resting beside him with the steady breathing of deep sleep. I'm terrified, he admitted. But Rex and I are in this together. I know he'll keep me safe and I'll do everything I can to protect him. That's what love means. You face the scary stuff together. Rex's eyes opened, and through the translation device, his voice came through with warmth and determination. Jake brave when Rex was sick. Now Rex be brave for Jake. Together we protect Earth family. As the weeks passed and the training intensified, Amanda realized that the bond between humans and scouts was creating something that had never existed before in the galaxy. A truly united species capable of fighting not just for survival, but for the protection of love itself. The Devourers were coming, but they would face an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. They would face the combined strength of two species joined not by conquest or necessity, but by the simple, powerful force of creatures who had chosen to love and protect each other. 5 months after Rex's awakening, The world had reorganized itself around the partnership between humans and scouts. Cities now featured coordination centers, where human-scout pairs worked together to monitor space and coordinate defenses. The quiet suburban neighborhood where Amanda's clinic was located had become one of the most important strategic locations on Earth. Jake and Rex had emerged as leaders in the Human Scout Alliance. Their bond had grown so strong that they could communicate without words and operate the most advanced scout technology, as if they had been born to it. Jake had learned to pilot spacecraft that moved faster than anything humans had ever built, while Rex could access data networks that spanned the entire galaxy. The enemy ships have entered the outer edge of the solar system, Rex announced during the daily briefing at Amanda's clinic, which had been expanded into a command center. Devourers move in formation of 1,000 vessels. They expect no resistance from Earth. Colonel Hughes reviewed the tactical displays that showed the approaching fleet. The enemy ships were massive, each one capable of destroying entire cities. But the scouts had shared technology that gave Earth a fighting chance. Our human scout pairs are ready, she reported. We have 300 operational teams worldwide, each capable of piloting our new hybrid fighters. The orbital defense platforms are online, and the planetary shields are at full power. Amanda had been working around the clock to ensure that all the human scout pairs were medically stable and prepared for combat. The bonding process put enormous strain on both species, but the results were extraordinary. Humans who had been ordinary pet owners weeks earlier were now capable of feats that seemed impossible. Sarah Kim and her scout companion, Luna, had developed their early warning system into a comprehensive surveillance network. I can feel them getting closer, Sarah reported from her station in Denver. Their intentions are completely hostile. They see Earth as nothing more than food to be consumed. 8-year-old Emma Rodriguez and her cat Whiskers had become the communication hub for the entire defense network. Despite her young age, Emma could coordinate messages between hundreds of human scout pairs instantly. The Devourers are scary, she announced in her matter-of-fact way. But they don't understand about families. That's going to be their big mistake. The scout technology had been integrated with human engineering to create weapons and defenses that neither species could have developed alone. The orbital platforms combined scout energy projection with human tactical thinking. The fighter spacecraft used scout speed and maneuverability with human piloting instincts. Rex had been sharing intelligence about Devourer tactics with the military planners. Enemy uses fear as weapon, he explained through the translation device. Devourers project terror into minds of prey. Makes defenders panic and fight badly. Jake nodded, understanding the implication. But the bond between human and scout creates protection against that kind of attack. When we're connected, we share courage as well as fear. Dr. Cole had been studying the psychological effects of the human-scout bond and had discovered something remarkable. The emotional connection doesn't just allow the pairs to share abilities, she explained. It actually makes them immune to the kind of psychological warfare the Devourers use. Love creates a barrier that terror cannot penetrate. The training had intensified as the enemy approached. Human scout pairs practiced combat maneuvers that required perfect synchronization between pilot and navigator. Jake and Rex had become instructors, teaching other pairs how to achieve the level of unity necessary for effective combat. Trust your scout completely, Jake would tell new pilots. Don't try to think through every decision. Let the bond guide you. Rex knows things I could never learn, and I can do things Rex could never accomplish alone. Together, we're something new. Rex would add his own advice through the translator. Humans brave in ways scouts cannot be. When scared, remember human protects family. This makes humans stronger than any enemy. The first engagement came sooner than expected. A group of Devourer scout ships broke away from the main fleet and accelerated toward Earth. The planetary defense system detected them 3 days out, giving the human scout pairs time to prepare for their first real combat. Jake and Rex were part of the first wave of defenders, piloting one of the new hybrid fighters toward the approaching enemy. As they flew through space in their advanced craft, Jake felt the same calm confidence that Rex had always given him during his difficult nights with PTSD. Ready, partner? Jake asked as they approached the enemy ships. Rex's response came through their mental link rather than the translation device. Always ready with Jake. Protect Earth family together. The Devourer ships were unlike anything in human experience. They seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. creating dark spaces in the starfield that hurt to look at. As the human scout fighters engaged them, the Devourers immediately began projecting waves of terror and despair, but the psychological attack had no effect on the bonded pairs. Jake felt the fear wash over him, but Rex's steady presence in his mind transformed it into determination. Around him, other human scout teams were responding the same way, turning the enemy's weapon against them. "This is impossible," came a transmission from one of the Devourer ships, translated by the scout communication system. "The prey species shows no fear. How can they fight without terror?" Sarah Kim, monitoring from her station on Earth, provided the answer through the communication network. "Because we're not fighting alone. We're fighting for each other." The battle was brief but decisive. The Devourer scouts, unprepared for enemies who could not be intimidated, were quickly overwhelmed by the coordinated attacks of the human scout pairs. Not a single Earth fighter was lost. As the surviving enemy ships retreated toward the main fleet, Rex translated their communications. "Prey species has unknown defense. Psychological weapons ineffective. Request new strategy from Fleet Command." Colonel Hughes reviewed the battle data with satisfaction. They've never faced an enemy that couldn't be frightened into submission. But the bond between our pairs creates something they can't understand or counter. Amanda monitored the medical data from all the human scout pairs who had participated in the battle. "Everyone came through perfectly," she reported. "In fact, the combat seems to have strengthened the bonds rather than weakening them." Jake and Rex returned to Earth energized rather than exhausted. The shared danger and victory had deepened their connection even further. "Fighting together makes us stronger," Jake explained to the debrief team. "It's like the bond grows when we trust each other completely." Rex added his perspective. "Humans fight for love, not conquest. This makes humans impossible to defeat when they fight together." The successful defense of Earth's outer perimeter sent a message throughout the galaxy. For the first time in their history, the Devourers had encountered prey that could not be terrorized into submission. The news traveled to other worlds that had been marked for consumption, and for the first time in centuries, hope began to spread among species that had been living in fear. But the main Devourer fleet was still approaching, and Earth's defenders knew that the real test was yet to come. The enemy would adapt their tactics and return with overwhelming force. However, the Human Scout Alliance had proven something important. Love truly was stronger than fear, and when two species chose to protect each other, they became something greater than either could be alone. As Jake and Rex prepared for the larger battle to come, Amanda realized that the dying dog she had almost put down 6 months earlier had become the key to humanity's survival. The bond that had started with one man's love for his sick pet had grown into something that could save not just Earth, but potentially every living world in the galaxy. 2 weeks after the first successful engagement with the Devourer scouts, the main enemy fleet had regrouped and was approaching Earth with new tactics. The psychological weapons that had served them for millennia had proven useless against the human scout bonds, so they were preparing for a different kind of warfare. Jake and Rex stood in the command center that had grown around Amanda's veterinary clinic, studying the intelligence reports that painted a grim picture. The Devourers had analyzed the failure of their scout force and were bringing weapons designed to physically separate bonded pairs. "They understand now that our strength comes from unity," Rex explained through the translation system. "Enemy develops new weapons to break bonds between humans and scouts. Separation makes both species weak again." Colonel Hughes reviewed the tactical assessment with growing concern. Their new ships carry some kind of field generator that disrupts the neural connections between bonded pairs. "If they can break our partnerships, we lose our primary advantage." Amanda had been studying the medical data from the previous battle and had noticed something troubling. The bond between human and scout requires constant emotional reinforcement. If the pairs are separated for too long, the connection begins to weaken. But Jake and Rex had been working on something that might change the entire nature of the conflict. Their bond had grown so strong that they were beginning to share not just abilities, but actual memories and experiences. Jake could access Rex's knowledge of scout technology directly, while Rex gained Jake's human intuition and creativity. "Show them what we discovered yesterday," Rex suggested. Jake approached one of the most complex pieces of scout technology in the command center, a device that normally required a bonded pair to operate, but this time he placed his hands on it alone. The device activated immediately, responding to Jake as if Rex were still touching it beside him. How is that possible? Dr. Cole asked, studying her readings in amazement. The bond has become permanent, Jake explained. Rex and I aren't just connected when we're together anymore. He's part of me now, and I'm part of him. Even if we're physically separated, the connection remains. Rex added his perspective. Jake's courage is now Rex's courage. Rex's knowledge is now Jake's knowledge. Two species become one new thing. Around the world, other human scout pairs were reporting similar developments. Emma Rodriguez and her cat Whiskers had achieved complete memory sharing, allowing them to coordinate the global communication network even when separated by thousands of miles. Sarah Kim and Luna had developed their early warning system into a form of shared consciousness that could monitor the entire solar system simultaneously. This changes everything, Colonel Hughes realized. If our bonded pairs can maintain their abilities even when separated, the Devourer's new weapons won't be effective. But the enemy was bringing more than just separation technology. Their new fleet included ships designed to consume life force at a distance, draining the energy from entire populations without needing to land on planets. The Devourers had decided that if they couldn't terrorize their prey into submission, they would simply consume Earth from space. Rex translated the enemy communications that the Scout network had intercepted. Devourers planned to drain all life from Earth in single attack. No survivors, no resistance. Planet becomes empty like all others. The scale of the approaching threat was beyond anything Earth had ever faced. 1,000 massive ships, each capable of destroying cities, were preparing to strip all life from the planet in a coordinated assault. Even with their advanced human scout partnerships, Earth's defenders were outnumbered and outgunned. But Amanda had been thinking about the bonds between humans and scouts in a different way. What if the connection works in reverse? She suggested during a strategy meeting. We've seen that human emotions can strengthen scout abilities. What if scout technology could amplify human capabilities on a global scale? Jake and Rex exchanged a look that had become their wordless communication. They had been thinking about the same possibility. Explain your idea, Jake said. Every human on Earth has some capacity for emotional connection, Amanda continued. What if we could extend the bond beyond just pet owners? What if we could link the entire human population to the Scout network? Rex's response came through the translator with excitement. All humans become bonded to Scout network. Every person on Earth becomes part of defense. Not just fighters, but entire species working together. Dr. Cole was immediately interested in the scientific implications. The emotional resonance that makes the bonds work exists in all humans. If we could amplify it using Scout technology, we could create a planetary consciousness capable of coordinating a defense that the Devourers couldn't counter. The idea was ambitious beyond anything they had attempted before. Instead of just training individual human scout pairs, they would need to connect every person on Earth to the alien network. The risks were enormous, but so was the potential. Jake volunteered to be the first test subject for the expanded bonding process. Rex and I have the strongest connection. If anyone can serve as a bridge between the human population and the Scout network, it's us. The procedure required Rex to interface directly with the planetary communication grid, while Jake served as a conduit for human consciousness. Amanda monitored their vital signs as they began the process, watching as their brain patterns synchronized not just with each other, but with data streams from around the world. I can feel them, Jake said in wonder as the connection established. Every person on the planet, their hopes, their fears, their love for their families. It's like Rex's network, but made of human emotions instead of technology. Rex added his perspective through their shared consciousness. Humans strong when united. Every human protects family. 7 billion humans protecting Earth family creates power Devourers cannot imagine. The global bonding process began slowly, with volunteers around the world linking to the network through their scout companions. But as the connection spread, it began to accelerate. Humans who didn't have pets found themselves connecting through neighbors who did. Children who had never seen a scout felt the network calling to them through their friends. Within hours, billions of people around the world were experiencing the same sensation that Jake had felt when he first bonded with Rex. A sense of connection, purpose, and strength that came from being part of something larger than themselves. The energy readings are off the charts, Ben Crawford reported from his monitoring station. We're seeing coordination patterns that span the entire planet. Every human on Earth is becoming part of a unified defense network. The Devourers, still approaching Earth with confidence in their overwhelming force, had no idea what they were about to encounter. They expected to find a divided world populated by creatures who would panic and flee in the face of extinction. Instead, they would face something that had never existed before in the galaxy, an entire planet whose population was united by bonds of love and protection, amplified by technology that turned emotional connection into measurable power. As the enemy fleet prepared for its final assault, 7 billion humans stood ready to defend their world, linked together by the same force that had started with one man's love for his dying dog. The Devourers were about to learn that love, when shared by an entire species, could indeed move planets. Jake and Rex, at the center of the global network, felt the combined will of humanity flowing through them. The scared veteran and his faithful companion had become the heart of something magnificent, a planetary consciousness dedicated to protecting everything they held dear. The real battle for Earth was about to begin. The final battle began at dawn on a Tuesday morning that started like any other day in human history, but would end as the most important day in the galaxy's memory. The Devourer fleet had positioned itself just outside Earth's atmosphere, their massive ships blotting out sections of the sky like dark clouds that consumed light itself. Jake and Rex stood at the center of the global command network, feeling the combined consciousness of 7 billion humans flowing through their bond. Every person on Earth was connected now, from children in schools to elderly people in nursing homes, all linked together by the same force that had brought a dying dog and his human companion together in a veterinary clinic 6 months earlier. Enemy begins final attack, Rex announced as his sensors detected the charging of the Devourer weapons. Ships prepare to drain all life from planet surface. Attack will begin in minutes. But the Devourers had made a critical error in their assessment of Earth's defenses. They had expected to face scattered resistance from individual fighters, not a unified planetary consciousness that could coordinate the actions of an entire species in real time. Amanda monitored the global network from her clinic, watching as the medical readings showed something unprecedented. Every human on Earth was experiencing the same elevated brain activity that she had first observed in Jake during his initial bonding with Rex. The entire species was functioning as a single, massive intelligence. The energy patterns are unlike anything we've ever recorded, Dr. Cole reported. We're seeing coordination between billions of individual minds. It's as if humanity has evolved into something new right before our eyes. Sarah, Kim, and Luna, connected to their early warning network, provided the tactical assessment. I can feel their attack pattern, Sarah announced. They're targeting population centers first, trying to break our unity by destroying the largest concentrations of bonded humans. But the Devourers had underestimated the nature of human connection. When the first energy beams lanced down from their ships, targeting major cities around the world, they encountered something they had never faced before, a defense powered by love itself. Emma Rodriguez, the 8-year-old at the heart of the communication network, coordinated the response with the matter-of-fact efficiency that had made her legendary among the human scout pairs. Everyone protect everyone, she announced through the global link. Big family, big protection. The planetary shields that rose to meet the Devourer attack were unlike anything in the galaxy's history. Instead of being generated by machines or technology, they were created by the combined will of billions of humans who refused to let their families be harmed. The energy weapons that had destroyed countless worlds simply stopped when they encountered the barriers of pure determination. Jake felt the power flowing through him as he and Rex became the focal point for humanity's defense. I can see their confusion, he announced to the command center. They don't understand how we're blocking their weapons. They've never encountered a defense based on emotional connection. The Devourer fleet commander's communication was intercepted and translated by the scout network. Impossible energy readings from Prey World. Population shows unified resistance. Individual life forms should not be capable of planetary-scale coordination. Rex responded through the global communication system, his words reaching not just the Devourers but every conscious being within 100 light-years. Humans different. Humans love. Love makes stronger than any weapon. The battle escalated as the Devourers brought more powerful weapons to bear, trying to overwhelm Earth's defenses through sheer force. But every increase in their attack was met by an equal increase in human determination. Parents protecting their children, friends defending each other, entire communities united in their refusal to surrender, all of it flowing through the network that Jake and Rex had made possible. Colonel Hughes coordinated the counterattack as Human Scout. Fighters launched from bases around the world, but these weren't just individual pilots anymore. Each fighter was connected to the global consciousness, able to coordinate with thousands of others in perfect synchronization. "Launch the final phase," she ordered. Jake and Rex looked at each other, knowing what this meant. They had developed a strategy that would either save Earth or destroy them all. The global network had grown so powerful that it could project human consciousness directly into space, but the effort might burn out the connections that held it together. "Ready, partner?" Jake asked, his hand resting on Rex's head in the same gesture he had used to comfort his friend during the darkest nights. "Ready with Jake," Rex replied. "Protect Earth family together always." Together, they reached out through the network and touched the mind of every human on Earth. For one perfect moment, 7 billion people shared the same thought, the same purpose, the same love for their world and each other. The energy that erupted from Earth was visible from distant stars. It swept through the Devourer fleet like a wave of pure life force. But instead of destroying the enemy ships, it did something far more powerful. It showed the Devourers what they had been missing for millions of years. For the first time in their existence, the Devourers felt love. They experienced the sensation of caring for something beyond themselves, of being part of a community, rather than existing as solitary consumers. The emotion was so foreign to them that it stopped their attack completely. "What is this feeling?" came the confused transmission from the Devourer flagship. "Why do we feel connection to prey species? This sensation is unknown to us." Rex translated not just the words but the emotion behind them. "Enemy feels love for first time." Devourers understand they have been alone for so long they forgot what it means to be part of family. The battle ended not with destruction, but with revelation. The Devourer fleet powered down their weapons and requested permission to approach Earth peacefully. The species that had destroyed countless worlds was experiencing something that changed their entire understanding of existence. Jake felt tears running down his face as he realized what had happened. The bond that had started with his love for a sick dog had grown into something that could transform even the most hostile species in the galaxy. Amanda watched the readings as the global network began to stabilize into something permanent. Humanity hadn't just defended their world, they had evolved into something new, a species capable of sharing consciousness while maintaining individuality. "The connections are holding," she reported. "The global bond isn't breaking down. It's becoming part of what humans are now." As the weeks that followed would show, Earth had become the first world to successfully resist the Devourers not through violence but through love. The enemy fleet remained in orbit, learning what it meant to be part of a community rather than existing as destroyers. Rex, his mission completed in ways his species had never imagined, continued to serve as a bridge between humans and the growing galactic community that was forming around Earth's example. Other worlds that had been targeted by the Devourers began developing their own versions of the Human Scout bond, creating alliances based on love rather than fear. Jake returned to his quiet life in the mountains, but now he carried within him the consciousness of an entire planet. Rex remained at his side, no longer just a pet or even just a friend, but a partner in something that had changed the nature of life itself. Amanda kept her veterinary clinic, but it had become a pilgrimage site for beings from across the galaxy who wanted to understand how love could be stronger than any weapon. The examination room where she had almost ended Rex's life became a symbol of how transformation could come from the most unexpected places. Years later, as the galaxy organized itself around the principles of connection and care that Earth had demonstrated, historians would mark the day that a dying dog clung to his owner in a small veterinary clinic as the moment when the universe learned that love truly was the most powerful force in existence. Jake and Rex, sitting together on their porch as the sun set over the Colorado mountains, could feel the peace that their bond had helped create spreading to distant stars. The scared veteran and his faithful companion had become the foundation for something magnificent. a galaxy where no one had to face the darkness alone. The bond between them had become eternal, extending far beyond their individual lives to touch every corner of the universe. And in that connection, love had indeed proven stronger than fear, creating a future where all species could find family among the stars.